matter to court. We were the first to take Z to court over disqualification. But other political parties came after us. Their cases were decided, some in 1 week, one in 10 days. The longest was decided in 10 days. But the MDC case was decided after 1 month. It was decided, we filed our case on the 23rd of June, and the matter was decided on the 1st of August. This is despite the fact that there was a policy decision by the High Court that electoral court matters were urgent. Our case was not regarded as urgent, and it was considered only after 1 month. We tried to find out why the Zimbabwe Election Commission was behaving against us in that peculiar matter, in that peculiar manner. And I need to advise you that in all electoral cases in this country that were brought before the electoral court, Z sided with the candidates. In other words, it decided, it acted in favor of allowing people to participate. In the Triple C case, for example, Z deposed affidavits supporting the candidates. But in the MDC case, Z put up such a spirited performance against the MDC. Now, you would expect that the people who would oppose our candidature would be fellow candidates. But it was not the Triple C, it was not ZANU-PF, it was not Mama is not there anymore, it was not UZA, it was not any other political party. It was the Zimbabwe Election Commission itself. It was the referee herself that actively acted against the MDC. And as has become the norm, the court's decision in our case was not on the merits. The judge simply said, as Justice Malaba had said, that they declined to hear the case. They refused to hear the case. Now, that was a bit too much for the MDC. There I was, a presidential candidate, whose 87 of my candidates were suddenly out in circumstances that were very, very unfair. And Z behaved against us in a clearly discriminatory way. And the courts acted against us in a typically discriminatory way. So just as we had sought justice in delimitation, we could not get justice for our 87. But that was not all. In 2018, we established what was called the high-level political platform. This high-level political platform was made up of political parties in parliament. It sought financial assistance from the European Union for training and deployment of polling agents. And in 2018, the MDC got about 850,000 euro towards deployment of and training of polling agents. This year, the European Union extended a grant of 3 million euro to ZANU-PF, the MDC, and the Triple C. And this money was for the purpose of training and deployment of polling agents. This money was disbursed to an organization called the Zimbabwe Institute, which is the agent for the European Union in this country. And the Zimbabwe Institute was about to distribute this money. And the per capita share of the MDC was about 1 million euro. ZANU-PF then unilaterally wrote to the European Union that the money must be sent back to the European Union. In other words, other political parties must not have the capability of fielding polling agents. So for the MDC, we found ourselves unfairly without 87 candidates. And this was as a result of the decision of the referee. We found ourselves not getting justice because the courts refused to hear us. And more importantly, I found myself without the ability to field polling agents in 11,000 polling stations. So the candidates are not there. The polling agents have been stopped, effectively stopped by one political party. ZEC knew this, and as a referee did nothing. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Zimbabwe Election Commission filed affidavits in the Bulawayo High Court supporting the candidates who were about to be disqualified. ZEC was very active because it said it is acting in favor of candidates. But when it came to the MDC, ZEC behaved in a different manner. This was not all. Our constitution makes it clear that you cannot change electoral law during an election or after proclamation of an election date. Against all of that, in violation of that constitutional principle, the government promulgated the statutory instrument 140A of 2023, which dealt with postal ballots. That was changing of electoral law midstream. And therefore, on the 2nd of August, I wrote to the Zimbabwe Election Commission to say because of the unfairness that was there against the MDC, which was coming from the election management body and the courts of law, we were unable to. My continued presence as a candidate was merely academic. I could not form a government anyway, even if I won. And I probably could be a one-week president because all the other MPs in parliament would either be Triple C or ZANU-PF. And it would be a question of time the president was impeachable. So because of this unfairness, it was clear that this election is a farce. It was clear that this election is a fraud. The Constitution makes it very clear that you cannot print ballot papers if there are court cases regarding candidature. And we all know that there was the Kasukwere case. And they continued saying to us in the Kasukwere case that they wanted to print ballot papers. But when it came to my withdrawal, and my withdrawal came before the Kasukwere case was decided, ZEC then said that they were unable to remove my name from the ballot, meaning that the ballot paper was printed. So Zimbabweans were being lied to that ballot papers had not been printed. It also means that ZEC and the Zimbabwean system knew what the decision in the Kasukwere case will be. There is no other way of treating Zimbabweans like fools like that manner. So Zimbabweans were being taken for a ride. Apparently, ballot papers were printed. Court cases were predetermined. Now, the MDC asked itself why it was being treated in a different manner from any other political party. We saw no difference between ourselves and any other political party except one. And that one difference was that we had taken the ZEC to court over delimitation. And we were being victimized by the Zimbabwe Election Commission. And we took a principled stance to say enough is enough. For that reason, we then boycotted the presidential election. It is a predetermined matter. It is unfree and unfair. It is artificial obstacles that have been placed on the part of the MDC. The MDC is being sacrificed as an example. Thou shalt not dare challenge ZEC, or else you will be prejudiced in the future. We refuse that. We want to be able to criticize ZEC as and when it is necessary to do so. So this election, in our respectful view, considered view, is an election which is dirty. It is an election which is predetermined. It is an election which is unfair. And it's an election characterized by gross injustice. When the Constitutional Court says that they cannot hear a party, when the High Court and the Electoral Court says they refuse to hear you, what else can you do? The MDC was denied justice. Fortunately, the MDC cannot take justice lying down. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share with you just a little bit of my history. My father worked for the University of Zimbabwe, and he worked in a department called the Physiology Department for many, many years. I was his last born. And he wanted me, badly wanted me to be a doctor. And throughout my education, I studied with the intention of being a doctor, up to A level. And I took subjects consistent with a later study of medicine. I do know some A-level chemistry. I do know some A-level biology. But at that time, there was gross injustice that was happening in Matabeleland. There was Kukura. And I listened to Robert Mugabe and ZANU-PF, how they were persecuting an ethnic group and how they were justifying that evilness. And I hated injustice. For that reason, I defied my father, I defied what was sensible, and decided to study law. I studied law because I abhor injustice. And as I was studying law, in 1991, I wrote a constitution for the Zimbabwe Unity Movement. It was a political party. It needed a constitution. Somebody had to do it, and I volunteered to do it. I was detained and arrested. I was arrested and detained in Wawa prison for 10 days for writing a constitution of a political party. As fate would have it, later in life, I was to write the constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe. That was the greatest favor that God could do to me. It is the greatest favor for any lawyer to write a constitution for their country. And I will be the first one to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that constitutions are not there for the decoration. Constitutions are there to be obeyed. Rules and regulations that we write for ourselves must be obeyed. Zimbabwe ought to be a constitutional democracy. And the constitutionalism that we ask for must not only be a mere gateway, it must be a way of life. In taking this painful decision, the MDC is making a statement about constitutionalism in this country. It is making a statement that the constitution must be obeyed. It is making a statement that whether Z victimizes it, the cause victimizes it or not, the MDC will not sit by and fold its hands. It will do something about it. So we are not participating in their presidential election because Z is deciding, he has decided who can contest and who cannot contest. And yet it is our right in terms of section 67 of the Constitution to be voted for and to vote. And 87 of our people were denied that right. And these 87, ladies and gentlemen, are comprised of youths, women, and the disadvantaged. People who cannot pay the nomination fees for themselves. And the MDC said, we will pay for them. What Z and ZANU-PF and the government had done by hiking the nomination fees was to make the election a class issue. It is an issue, it is a right of those who can afford it. We should say no to that. It was a right that was not being extended to the poor. And the MDC decided to stand with the poor, to stand with the disadvantaged. And I decided to boycott this presidential election in solidarity with my 87. In other words, what I'm simply saying to President Mnangagwa, who is the head of this system, what I'm simply saying is that the system is rotten, the system is unfair, and the system is unacceptable, and we cannot be part of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard that on the 18th of August, the MDC is staging a peaceful demonstration. This is a demonstration against disenfranchisement. We are saying it is wrong to disqualify 87 people. It's an abnormal number. And public policy should have kicked in. That's number one. Number two, it is wrong to deny people in 87 constituencies the right to choose. Number three, it is unfair to deny a presidential candidate his parliamentary team and still claim that the election is fair. And for that reason, we are staging a peaceful demonstration. We mean no harm to anyone. We are not going to break any property. We are not going to violate anyone. We feel that we are wrong. The people of Zimbabwe are wronged. And the people of Zimbabwe must stand up to this unfairness. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen,